Okay, well, happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome to our latest quarterly partner networking call. Thank you all for joining us. I know we've had a couple of technical issues and some issues with the invitation for Zoom, so we thank you all that were able to join us. We have an exciting call for you today, as always, but first, just a few housekeeping things. I know many of you are familiar with Zoom. If you are logged on through your PC, if you hover over the bottom, there will be an option for the chat box to come up. You are welcome to type in that throughout the call. Questions, feedback, stories, anything you want to share. There is also a Q&A section. You are welcome to type questions in there, and we will get to those as well. If you would like to speak, of course, as always, we'll have some time at the end of the call for you all to share things that you're working on, give us some updates from your neck of the woods, and just general chit-chat, anything you'd like to talk about. Okay, so first, a couple of updates from NHPCO. Of course, we don't need to remind you all that Veterans Day is coming up. We know that many of you are planning activities, have things in the works. Please let us know what's happening. As always, we have tons of resources on our website, everything from social media tools to a little bit of a deeper dive into resources, which is something that one of my colleagues is going to go over in just a minute. So just wanted to remind you all about those as well. A couple of other things. So honor flights. We know the honor flight season is will be winding down eventually. And we often have partners that send folks to DC. We are fortunate enough to be in DC, and we love greeting people at the airport. If you know someone who will be coming in on an honor flight, please let us know. We'll be happy to meet them at the airport and give them a really warm, we honor veterans and NHPCO welcome. And also, share the story about their day's experiences if they'd like us to. We're happy to be there. Let's see, a couple other things, updates on our website. As many of you know, we've been working to make things a little bit easier for our partners in the submittal process. Going forward for Recruit through Level 3, once you submit your partner activities, you will either be automatically approved or get a note right away saying that we need a little bit more information on one of the requirements. But this way, you will not have to wait. Again, if you are Recruit through Level 3, those are all automatic. For Level 4 submissions, we will still be eyeing those individually. And I also wanted to let you all know that we are thanking everyone for our patience at this time. I know I put a note up on our website. We have been inundated with even more inquiries, reports, questions than ever before. And as many of you know, our trusty customer service and face of technical support for We Honor Veterans, Hope Fost, has moved along. She is still within the NHPCO family, but she is working with Judy. So we will have a new team member starting next week. We're very excited to help her, but be assured that she will be supporting us and be helping you all with supporting and answering any questions you have as well. Just one more thing. Again, this has been a busy last few months as far as webinars and calls and resources go. They are all up on our website, all of the recordings. I know that many of you were very happy to be participating in yesterday's webinar regarding suicide prevention. That will be up on our website within the next week. All of the Deborah Grassman resources, including the 2 webinars that she has presented in the last 2 months, are up there right now, including the self-assessment tool, the heart anchoring technique, and also tips for the Vietnam veteran beads and how to create those for your Vietnam era patients. So again, those are all up on the website. Okay, well, without further ado, I want to hand it over again. I said I'm very happy. We know that this time of year, we always really encourage our partners to work together and host events in their communities, or even just pinning ceremonies within your own hospices. around Veterans Day, but we are always encouraging you to invite your representatives. We know that it's a little more stressful than it sounds, and we realize that you already have a million other things going on, but we do want to just reiterate how easy it is. So joining me today is Sydney Shepard. She's part of our Hospice Action Network, and she just has a few more tips to help you out.
Okay, hello everyone. As Catherine mentioned, my name is Sydney Shepard, and I'm the Advocacy and Policy Coordinator with the Hospice Action Network. If you're not familiar with the Hospice Action Network, or if you just need a quick refresh, HAN is the legislative arm of NHPCO, and we're always looking for ways to showcase the value of hospice in the congressional arena. You know, as we honor veterans partners, you are already poised to engage with congressional members. You know, many elected officials are concerned about the welfare of our nation's veterans, and by hosting an in-district event, you can engage members of Congress in discussions about hospice and, you know, draw attention to your program. We have resources that will teach you how to do so. You know, we have one-pagers on how to invite members of Congress to your event. We have one-pagers on what a perfect site visit looks like and other resources. If you've never done this before, feel free to reach out to me and we can guide you through the process. You should be receiving an email probably either this week or early next week about the steps you can take to kind of invite those members of Congress to your in-district events. So just be on the lookout for that email and let me know if you have any questions. My email is S as in Sydney, Shepard, SHEPHERD @nhpco.org.
All right, well, thanks, Sydney. And yeah, just as you mentioned, I'm sharing my screen right now, and it is the We Honor Veterans website. As she mentioned, we do have an advocacy toolkit available for you all to use. So if you just hover over Get Practical Resources, under We Honor Veterans Partner Resources, you will see the advocacy toolkit. And here is the landing page for anything advocacy related you could ever need. Again, we have a webinar, we have step-by-step instructions, we have templates of letters, you know, steps on how to request those in-district meetings, and again, anything you'd need. So even if you're just slightly curious or interested, please reach out to our Hospice Action Network and we'll be happy to help you out. We really can't stress enough how important it is for you all to get involved and invite these representatives to your events. Again, so thank you for that. All right, I think that's all of the updates we have for NHPCO at this time. No, actually, I'm kidding. So one other thing I wanted to hit on. So we are coming up to the end of the fiscal year. As many of you are aware of and know, We Honor Veterans is done in collaboration with the Department of Veterans Affairs, and it is through a contract. We are happy to be continuing along our partnership for what we hope will be another year. And we do want to mention that one big focus, I know we've sort of been amping things up over the past year and telling our partners about this, we really do want to focus on care for Vietnam era veterans and combat veterans. We are in the process of, you know, collecting anything and everything we have from partners. I know I've asked for stories and best practices. So again, I really just do want to reiterate how much we appreciate anything that you have to share. Again, this is something that we're focusing on, and we really do want to be the one-stop shop for all things related to the care of Vietnam era and combat veterans at the end of life. One other thing I do want to touch on is I know that, you know, it's been kind of quiet and on the down low, but many people have been asking questions about our Level 5 program. So yes, this is coming. We created a Level 5 pilot group that has been working away over the last year. We have been creating the activities and shaping them for what we hope will be, you know, these standards going forward. So that first group is finishing up their activities. Those will be done and submitted to us within the next few weeks. And then, as I've mentioned before, we will be opening this program up to any Level 4 partners that do meet the requirements and do want to put the work in. I really do want to reiterate that this isn't just, a little bit more of level 4. We are extremely proud of all of the work that our level 4 partners do. We know that it is not easy, and this is something that really is going above and beyond and showing what your organization is doing to care for veterans. So the requirements will be up on the website, and any partners, as I said, that are level 4 and do meet the requirements can apply. I also just want to throw that out there with the caveat that this is something that you will need to reapply for each and every year. I know that many partners, once you reach a certain level, you stay there and we don't require that anything further be submitted. This will not be the case with level 5. You need to resubmit and redo the work each and every year if you want to keep that level 5 accreditation. On top of that, we really want to make partners aware that not only are you committing to the extra steps that it's going to take to be a level 5 partner, but you are committing to be a mentor to other We Honor Veterans partners in your area. So as a level 5 partner, you will be put up on our website with your contact information as a regional contact for any other partners in your area. So again, of course, We Honor Veterans is not going anywhere, and we will always be here to support everyone who wants to be a part of this program. But we really do want to make sure that there is a partner who has walked in their shoes before, and especially in the region, especially when it comes to things such as connecting with other partners in their own communities and really engaging in their community or statewide hospice veteran partnerships. So I do just want to reiterate that. So again, more information will be coming out on the We Honor Veterans website in late October, so stay tuned for that. Okay, well, without further ado, I do want to turn it over. I'm very happy to have a few different speakers with us today. First of all, we have dear Cindy Robotham and Judy Hunter. They are coming with us. They are coming to us from Beacon Hospice and Amedisys Company. And I was fortunate, very fortunate, a few weeks ago to be a part of their Veteran to Veteran Cafe initiative and go and visit and get to see our partners in action. So they are going to speak about basically these events that they're holding. They have provided also the tools which are up on our website now. So they will walk you through those and tell you a little bit more about event planning in your own area. So without further ado, I hand it over to you, Cindy and Judy.
Thank you so much, Catherine. I'm going to have Judy go over her Veteran to Veteran Cafe, how the agenda has been put together. And one thing I want to stress to everyone that is on the call is that Judy and I felt that simplistic works best. Just coming in, setting this up, and we have found that it has really worked very well. Our thrust is skilled nursing facilities, working with activities directors, setting them up. And I'm delighted to say that we are doing our 7th Vet to Vet Cafe in Bourne. We were delighted to have Catherine attend, of course. That was a real a thrill for Judy and I and the veterans that attended. And we are also embracing another skilled nursing facility that is going to be beginning Vet to Vet Cafes. What we are doing is having them monthly. And Judy and I would like to have at least 4 skilled nursing facilities having Vet to Vet Cafes every month. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Judy Hunter.
Good afternoon. The idea of the Veteran to Veteran Cafe is very simple, as Cindy said. It really has no agenda. The whole premise of it is to get the veterans together to try to get them to share military experiences, because as most of you probably know, they're more likely to talk about painful things with other veterans rather than open up to people who aren't veterans. And we've seen this work over time. At first, it was a little bit quiet, and we would just go around and ask them what branch they had served in and where they had served, and tell them that we honored them as veterans. And if they didn't want to talk about anything, we don't push it. We just, inquire. And slowly they seem to relax and start opening up, whether it's to each other or to share with the whole room. And we've had some quite successful ones where we've lost the veterans after having a cafe and heard from the facility where we had the cafe that veteran had died peacefully, and they really thought that it had to do with the fact that they had been able to open up and share some painful experiences at our cafe. So that's the whole point of having them. And like I said, we keep it simple. We usually go through the activities director at the facility. Whoever's in charge of setting up something like that is who you'd contact. And we do it 4 to 6 weeks out in the beginning planning, because we want to make sure that they have enough time to let the veterans know what's going on. And we create flyers and invitations that we send to the facility, and then they post them and hand them out to the veterans individually to invite them to these cafes. And we didn't do that in the beginning, and we found that we have a lot more veterans coming when they get the individual invitation. So we think that's very important. We don't, like I said, we don't usually have an agenda, but sometimes we have, if it's Memorial Day or Veterans Day, we might have something special that we bring, or a story to share with them, or just to make it a little bit different and mix it up. But we never force the issue of them talking at all. Do you want to add anything else to it? I'm trying to think.
Well, that's and another thing too, we always set it up as a coffee hour. In other words,
Oh, yeah.
So when the veterans come in, and with Boring Manor, they bring in some little pastry, soda, coffee. They also are very good about, who can have a sweet, who can't, because obviously there's some dietary restrictions. What has really touched Judy's heart and my heart is how they're coming in and so eager to be there. It's their own special group. Judy and I always make a special outreach to Vietnam veterans by shaking their hand and welcoming them home. That's especially, and they always thank us, don't they, Judy?
Yeah.
And then, of course, we've actually been blessed by having couple of World War II vets who were in the European theater, Battle of the Bulge, incredibly, and able to share incredible stories. And then we have other veterans who have served, but perhaps not in a combat situation, but the fact that they had served their country, and then they open up about maybe how the GI Bill, they were able to go to school, have an education. And what we love about it is when they reach out to one another. Well, that Navy was great, and that Army, and I remember this one wonderful vet we had, Chick, and he is the one who died 3 days afterwards, when he just didn't need it. He just kept on thanking everybody and praising everybody in the room and talking a little bit about his own career. And when we came back, they said he died peacefully 3 days later. So what sometimes is hard for Judy and I is that we've lost some vets already. We are talking about end of life. We're talking about long-term care facilities. And we come in and we say, gee, where was so-and-so? Oh, well, they died. And we had this one lovely female vet who was an Army nurse, and she came. She was awfully sweet. And then, between, in a month's time, they have gone on. But we've also been picking up other vets as well.
At our last cafe, Cindy was speaking with one of the veterans, and he had a hat on. And I was across the room, and I'm looking at his hat, and I said to the person next to me, is that a Purple Heart pinned to his hat? Right. And we couldn't tell because we were far away, so I walked over, and I interrupted Cindy, and I asked him. And he went, oh, yeah, like it was no big deal.
Yeah.
Now, this man was in his 90s. He was World War II, Battle of the Bulge.
Yeah.
And so then he told us how he was wounded and what had happened to his company and everything when they landed. And it was really, really interesting. And I think that it was really good for him to share the experience with us. And we just couldn't honor him enough, and yeah, I guess that it had been so long ago that he wasn't thinking anything of the Purple Heart anymore. And I took a picture of it and I said, this is unbelievable. I said, I can't believe you're just wearing that on your hat. It's beautiful. But he was really, really pleased that we acknowledged that.
I think that's very important. One thing about every time they come, to be thanked for their service and honored. You're talking about people at the end of their life. This was part of their life. I know that my father, Iwo Jima vet, who is no longer with us, but my dad always had that service, that pride in being in the service. And of course, my father did see combat. But all these other vets that have been through boot camp or they've been through military training, they have a camaraderie. And having them in that room together, they really do have a bonding. And it's just a privilege for Judy and I to be there. And again, the premise is simple. You set it up with the activities director, you come in, it's a win-win situation. Skilled Nursing Facility is delighted that we are coming in. We organize the Vet-to-Vet Cafe. They just, bring in some goodies, and we work the room. and it really can last maybe an hour, hour and a half at the very most. And at 10 o'clock in the morning, they have that, and then they're able to go. And every time we say, we'll be back next month, they thank us, and they're looking forward to the next Vet-to-Vet Cafe. Is there any questions?
Oh, if anyone has any questions, feel free to enter them in the chat box or in the Q&A. And again, I just want to thank you both, Cindy and Judy, so much for sharing this information, and just reiterate to partners how simple it really is. I know it can sound intimidating, and it's just an extra thing to do to hold these events, but I really can't stress enough how important these are and how much of a difference something as small as getting a couple of jugs of coffee and a couple of breakfast treats and sticking them in a room and having something, even if it's every other month, just having that place for people to come. Just come and be, they don't necessarily need to share their stories, as Cindy and Judy said, and oftentimes they don't. They just want to sit there and listen at first. And, eventually a lot of folks open up, but it really is just about creating that space for them to come and gather in. And I really can't stress that enough.
Thank you, Catherine. That's very well put. Come and be, and making that space. Now, remember, it's not that long. You're not talking about a full day of an event. You're not talking about a program. You're talking about just giving an opportunity for this time between veterans. And I know I'm volunteer coordinator, and I tell my volunteers that visit, end-of-life patients, obviously on hospice, it's amazing how little something can mean so much to a patient. Whether it's going and visiting some, patient on hospice and holding their hand for, an hour or half hour, or just spending a little time with them. It's the same thing applied to our Veterans Cafe, which of course is open to any veteran in these facilities. And it gives them too a chance to meet another veteran. They might be on, the second floor. They've never known that Harry on the first floor also was in the Air Force. And we've noticed that too.
Right.
So I wanted to say that. So it's kind of them bringing them all together.
It is, yeah. And again, it's just a space, even if they don't want to share their stories or their experiences. When I went to you all's Vet-to-Vet Cafe, there were two gentlemen who just wanted to grumble with one another about football. You put a Steelers and a Patriots fan in a room and things are going to happen. But again, it's just creating that space.
Right.
Okay. All right. We do have a couple of questions. So one is, how many vets do you get to go to the Vet-to-Vet Cafe?
Well, it's been growing. With Catherine, when you were there, I would say, what do we have? We had about 12 anyway. But the last we went in, it expanded. It was getting a little, actually, we're thinking we might have to use a larger room. And they're coming in. And remember, many of them are in our wheelchairs and so forth. So I think we're going to have to probably expand it to a larger room. But I would say it was at least 20.
We've had them as small as only 4 veterans there. And even that's work.
Oh, yeah.
So, it doesn't matter as long as you've got 2 of them there. If there's somebody to talk to each other and, obviously it's better if there's, more people, maybe 6 at least, but it still works with small groups.
Yeah, it's a seating. It's they begin, and then they talk to each other. Gee, you should come. And that's what we've seen too. Like Matt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Word spreads. Yeah, so what about getting veterans to come from the outside?
Well, we've put that out because actually Bourne Manor has a contract with the VA. And so we had spoken to the admissions person at Bourne Manor, as well as the activities director, that people from the outside can come in. During, and it was Memorial Day, we did have some people from the Marine Corps come in uniform, come in and mingle with them. But we certainly would have the door open. Right now, it has just been in-house. We certainly would, love to do that. And as I was telling Catherine earlier, when Judy and I were speaking to her prior to the call, Judy and I are attending an expo, the Veteran Affairs Expo in October. We are going to be talking about the Vet to Vet Cafe, and we are going to be speaking about this to veterans that are coming in and different organizations and saying, we are running these Vet to Vet Cafes. We would love to have someone come in and just be part of it. So that's going to be an outreach too.
The older veterans seem to like it when there's young veterans around that come in and talk to them about their experience.
That young blood. Yeah. And too, we've had our women veterans too, which is always extremely special. So that is what we're going to be doing at the expo.
Wonderful. Okay, another question. So do you have a set program or speakers? And what happens if no one talks?
Oh, no, they'll talk.
No.
Trust me. That's what Judy and I do. We're the facilitators. But it's an open forum. Like I say to Judy, work the room. So, as what Catherine experienced, you're going around and saying, hi, so-and-so, how you doing, and sitting by them. And that's what we do. But we do not have a program where you hand out a program and you say, now we're going to have an opening speech. Now we're going to have a reading.
Sometimes we do patriotic readings just for something nice to do, to honor them. And on 4th of July, around 4th of July, when we did one, we started it out with a Pledge of Allegiance, which they loved. So we throw in little things like that here and there, but there's never an agenda. It's very important that they don't think that there's any kind of agenda. We just want it to be a social coffee hour for them where they can feel free to relax and talk.
Yes, think of it that way. The Vet to Vet Cafe is exactly that. A relaxing coffee hour, opening space, free to be. Yeah, that's basically what it is.
Wonderful. Okay, so I just had a comment come in from Kathy. She's saying, we have tried this Vet to Vet meeting and found that vets enjoyed writing cards to deployed military. It gives a sense of purpose. Have you all ever tried doing that?
Sounds like a wonderful idea, doesn't it,
Yep.
Judy? We also were thinking, of course, now that up on the We Are Vets is how to put together the beads for a veteran, Vietnam vets. That might be something to think about. Certainly, some folks really are restricted in movement and cognitive ability, but for those who are, I think it would be wonderful for them to have cards to send out. I love that idea. But, again, we're in a skilled nursing facility, and a lot of these people are really at the end of their lives.
Yeah.
But doing for others is wonderful. I mean, you can do that. One of my oldest volunteers was 92. I don't let age get in their way.
Nope. All right. Well, just to hit on a point that you just made, we had another question about the Vietnam veteran beads. So I know that this is a question that has come up, and Deborah Grassman hit on this, and I think both of her last webinars. And yeah, as Cindy just mentioned, having the beads is definitely a sacred activity for Vietnam veterans to take part of. We do have some guidelines up on our website as far as, practical craft tools, but I think the most important thing to keep in mind is that only Vietnam veterans can make them, and only Vietnam veterans can give them. So just to definitely keep that in mind. But again, we do have some guidelines up on our website if you need those as well. Okay, does anyone else have any questions, comments for Cindy and Judy? And I know that she mentioned this. I did write a quick little blurb write-up on my experience there with their Vet2Vet Cafe, and it's in our last newsletter. So just highlighting my experience there. And again, I really was so grateful to be a part of that and see our partners in action and get to speak with the participants there. So thank you both again for letting me be a part of that.
Oh, it was our pleasure. Yeah. Believe me. Thank you, Catherine. Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. Well, thanks, ladies. And if anyone has any questions or anything else, feel free to send them into the veterans inbox, and I'll do the best that I can to answer them, or reach out to Cindy and Judy to answer them as well. Okay, so Ed Teo, I know you had logged on. Can we hear you now? Are you with us, Ed? Okay, so I think he may still be having a few technical difficulties, but we'll work through them. That's okay. I know that our colleague, Dr. Scott Shreve, has joined us. Are you with us, Scott?
Yes, I am, Catherine. Thank you very much.
Well, good afternoon and welcome.
Oh, thank you. Are you looking just for mostly for updates from Department of Veterans Affairs, or if there's anything else you'd like me to address, I'm happy to go in whatever direction you point me.
Anything that is on your mind, Dr. Shreve. Any
that's
updates
dangerous.
You want to share? Yes. any stories? Yeah. A limerick, perhaps, whatever.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll start off with a thank you, first of all, for perhaps some of you, if not many of you. We, Department of Veterans Affairs, partnered with the National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization and delivered the suicide prevention webinar yesterday. And it's just wonderful from my perspective to see a Department of Veterans Affairs that has a wealth of expertise in mental health issues, related to veteran-centric issues, that we can share this expertise widely. These are your tax dollars at work, so whatever we can do to try to disseminate this kind of expertise, all the better. And I'll come back to that point in a few minutes too. My second topic, a little bit of a status report. This is on the No Veteran Dies Alone program, and there's been a resource manual released, and really appreciate the collaboration with NHPCO on developing some videos that we're really looking forward to being able to share widely, no charge, to have I think there was just the director of volunteers on, to have them be able to use these videos as a resource for training volunteers. And these will have obviously some veteran specific flavor to them. But we're trying to make it easier for people who run No Veteran Dies Alone programs to have some kind of resources they can take right off the shelf and share with volunteers during their training programs. Catherine, you really said a mouthful when you talked about earlier about the Vietnam era veterans and combat veterans. And I just want to thank, there were a number of you that shared some best practices, pinning ceremonies, veteran-to-veteran volunteer programs, and there were really some wonderful pictures. emailed back to Catherine and shared how much a few of them just touched me. And I wasn't even there during the ceremony, but the picture just captured so much. So thank you for sharing the best practices. There's been a lot of congressional activity related to Vietnam era veterans and combat veterans. And this is really, I think, just wonderful timing to raise awareness about the growing demographic of Vietnam era veterans approaching end of life. And our program office in the Department of Veterans Affairs will be moving forward. And I really believe we're uniquely positioned as a healthcare organization to give you all information about Vietnam era veterans. We may be the only healthcare system in the country that is able to break out the patients that we serve by war era. I don't know of other healthcare systems that collect or are able to break out their database along those lines. So we're digging into that. I also participated in a summit with the Hospice of the Western Reserve. Wow, powerful summit, wonderful sharing. I don't know if anyone is on the call from there, but that was a summit, and I know they're also working on some what I'll call best practices for care of Vietnam era veterans. Right now, we're in an information data gathering mode. Anything you want to share with us, please send to the We Honor Veterans website, and I'm sure Catherine will get it to us. And we want to provide quality care. And I was really enjoying listening to the Veteran to Veteran Cafe, and just picturing on the 17-bed inpatient hospice unit where I work, how that happens informally almost every day. And I just think that's wonderful. Many of our volunteers are veterans, by the way. And probably the last point I wanted to make for those of you with what I'll call a regulatory or legislative bent who really read the details into what our Congress has passed, the VA Mission Act did something that may impact all of us. Clearly, it will impact me in the Department of Veterans Affairs, but they used, and I'm not an attorney, so please feel free to correct me, it's the Federal Supremacy Clause. So what this is when state laws and federal laws may overlap or conflict, that at times the federal government will say, oh, this is so important, we're going to kind of make our rules apply and kind of push aside some of the state rules. And the rule I'm talking about is for telemedicine or clinical video telemedicine. So what it removed is the state boundary issue. So I'll just give a dramatic example that Dr. Scott Shreve in Pennsylvania could provide telemedicine to a veteran anywhere in the United States. And this could have huge implications. Where my mind goes to with this is that here's a Department of Veterans Affairs with a substantial amount of expertise, and we have most veterans, 97% of veterans who die in America will die outside VA medical centers. But here's an opportunity perhaps where VA experts may be able to support and collaborate with veterans receiving home hospice care. And the example that comes to my mind is the psychologist who has expertise in working with PTSD is one where, boy, we might be able to supplement some of the care that you provide and get over all those geographic boundaries and the issues with ruralness and things like that. So in a nutshell, Catherine, that's really all I had. And I don't have Zoom up on my computer screen. If there's questions, I'm happy to hang on and answer any questions or dialogue about anything.
Well, that's okay. And thank you, Scott. And I see that, let's see, Michelle and Nate from Hospice of the Western Reserve are on the call. Hi, guys. Let's see, just want to give a shout out to them. Can you hear me, Nate? Nate?
Yes. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Yes, thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Of course.
We had a wonderful engagement over at the Wade Park Lewis Stokes VA Medical Center in Cleveland, and Dr. Shreve and Dr. Eads were able to join us. We had a few of our Vietnam veteran volunteers share some of their experiences and stories, and we're working very closely with our friends over at Lewis Stokes VA, and we were very happy to have support and attendance from Dr. Shreve and Dr. Eads as well. So it's a very exciting time. So we're very excited to be working to develop some practices and gather some information and best practices that we can share around care for Vietnam veterans and combat veterans around end of life.
Oh, wonderful. Could you maybe talk to folks about some of the takeaways from the day?
We had gathered some good information from our participants. We had some representation from some elected officials and some folks from Vietnam Veterans of America. We had a small breakout session towards the end where we gathered some different information. And quite honestly, we're still kind of going through and compiling the information to see what specific information we can pull16 different things like psychosocial needs, access to care, just the general things that we've really been working with across the board with We Honor Veterans and our Ohio Hospice Veterans Partnership, and certainly our partners over at Lewis Stokes VA Medical Center and the C-Box here in Northern Ohio.
Oh, wonderful. All right. Does anyone have any questions for Nate and Hospice of the Western Reserve and they're planning an event? If so, feel free to ask. And again, thank you both for joining us. Well, for putting on what sounded like quite a successful event, and for joining us today as well. And I will definitely be reaching out to you all for some follow-up questions. So glad you could join us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so we did have one other speaker, Ed Teo. Are you able to hear me now? Just going to try to give him one more minute to get dialed in because we did want to hear from him. Okay, unfortunately, Ed is having a little bit of trouble. I'll give him one more minute to get dialed in, but just a little bit of background information. Ed Teo is with a hospice who is also part of our Level 5 pilot group. He is based out of San Antonio. And one thing that he has really been focused on and working on over the past year is getting the Hospice Veteran Partnership in Central Texas up and running and sort of back off the ground. Things were a little bit stagnant and quiet for a while, but he really has sort of gathered forces with not only hospices, but other veterans organizations in the area and made incredible connections with his local VA to really get this partnership up and running. I was fortunate enough to be there a few weeks ago. He pretty much single-handedly organized and put together a day-long conference filled with sessions and seminars surrounding We Honor Veterans, as well as, you know, ways to partner with your local VA, different tips and tools, and really how to build these community collaborations and relationships. So I know that he has put in a tremendous amount of work and that it really has paid off. And it's, again, I can't mention how important this is. I know that HVPs are something that partners know, but they don't always love. A lot of our partners, when they sign up, it's one of those, do I really have to do this? And why do I have to partner with others? But I know as folks really work through the levels and get deeper into the program, they really do realize how important these collaborations and these relationships are. And how important it is not only to your program, but to the patients and to the community as a whole. So I'm definitely very grateful to have Ed as a partner, and we're working on a couple of projects that we'll definitely keep folks posted on. Let's see. Nope, unfortunately, Ed, I'm going to try one more thing. I'm sorry, folks. Hold on one moment. All right, folks. Now. Okay, folks, we're going to try this. Okay, so again.
It's gonna work now. Can you hear me okay? Well, I apologize.
All right, folks. Well, unfortunately, we're having some technical difficulties with Ed, but hopefully we'll be able to have him on an upcoming call. Again, something that we really have been working on with him is sort of honing our resources for hospice veteran partnerships. We know that there is such a good community nationwide of already established HVPs, many that are there to join forces with, again, that are already established, but sometimes whether it be just because it's gone a little silent, or maybe you're in a community that wants to start your own and has the ability to do so, we want to provide the resources for you to create that on your own. So this is something that we've been working with not only Ed, but other partners who have really been sort of reviving their own community partnerships and collaborations. So that's something else that we have to look forward to as well. Okay, well, again, I'm sorry that Ed wasn't able to join us, but I am, as always, eternally grateful to dear Cindy and Judy for all of your support and all that you're doing as partners and in your community, these vet-to-vet cafes, and I really can't thank you enough, and I'm so glad that you were able to join us and share your wealth of knowledge with other partners today, and put the resources up on our website as well. So thank you both.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, believe me, very welcome.
And again, as always, thank you, Dr. Scott Shreve, for all that you are doing each and every day to help us, to help We Honor Veterans, and to support our partners as well. I hope you know how much all of us appreciate all that you do.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I'm honored to be a part of it. And boy, it's really nice to work with a group of passionate people to move this forward.
Oh, well, thank you. All right, folks. Well, we'll be in touch in the upcoming months, again, with a couple of few developments, and keep your eyes peeled in later October for the Level 5 announcement. But until then, as always, if you have questions, please send them to veterans@NHPCO, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. All right, take care. Wishing everyone a wonderful week and successful Veterans Day events. And again, please let us know if you need anything or you have anything to share on that end. So with that, have a wonderful week. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.